Hey guys, good morning. Happy Friday. Um, so I wanted to talk today about um, just a question I got from someone the other day. They sent me a message, and I think they were just curious about my situation with my mother, and um, they ask, "Well, don't you love your mom?" And my immediate answer is, of course I do. This is the thing. Loving a person who is not well and who never learned how to conquer their own trauma because of, generational. I don't know. This is the thing. Generational trauma is a real construct. It's something that is absolutely a real thing. Um, when you're the when you're the child of a toxic parent, and then also add on top of that, you're neurodivergent. So I was diagnosed in my 20s with, originally, I was misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder. And then later, it was corrected by another therapist, psychiatrist, as ADHD. So because some of the symptoms overlap, they look similar, but I definitely have ADD, unmedicated, and um, at the time I was in my 20s. I was like, I don't need medication because I don't feel like it's affecting my life really in a negative way. Oh boy, did that change as I got older. I could have really used medication. I think I would have made lots of different choices in life, if I'd had, I don't know, help, in that way. But, um, you know, gosh, it's so hard to explain because as a child, my job was studying my mother and trying to not only figure out who she was, but how she was, right? My job was to mitigate her moods. My job was to read the room, read the energy, and act accordingly. That was my job. I I only knew how to be based on how she was. Okay. Now, looking back and having a lifetime of, studying, psychology, and, um, obviously I don't have a degree, but the ironic thing is that my mother was a teacher. She was a speech therapist, and her, minor was in child psychology. So I always thought that was super ironic. And I think even as a young kid, knowing that, uh, that's what her study was, I remember questioning myself constantly and going, well, surely I'm imagining all of this, you know, and it's all in my head because surely she would know that what she's doing is not right, not the way that you are supposed to treat your child or handle certain situations. And I just, it was a lifetime. I just learned to not trust myself, not to trust my instincts, not to listen to the voice in my head. And that became a major pattern and a major impact in my life. Just never trusting your instincts because you've been gaslit your whole entire life. And from the person who you're supposed to trust the most, right? Now, because my job was to study my mother and to know her every mood, every tick, every nuance, I was also her secret keeper. Okay. So, I think that the psychological term is parentifying your child. So I knew at a very, very young age many of her secrets that should have never been told to me, especially at the age that I was told. As an adult, I understand that what she was probably doing was trying to maybe get me to understand why she was the way she was. And I understand that, but that's beside the point, right? Um, I was burdened with very heavy, heavy information that I could not handle at the time. Now, as a young kid, there was a part of me that felt like I must be really important for her to, you know, trust me with this information. Um, Not realizing that I just didn't have the capacity to process, what she was telling me in a healthy way. It made me feel guilty forever. It made me feel guilty forever feeling angry at her or resentful towards her or any negative connotation I might have had towards her. And I don't know, I think maybe that was the whole point, was that she was trying to maybe inadvertently excuse certain behavior. Okay. The the issue with me being neurodivergent on top of all of this is that I have um, extreme empathy. So to the point where I will literally put myself in someone else's shoes in order to understand their point of view. It's not that I just feel sorry for someone, it's not that I just have empathy and, oh my gosh, I hate that this person is going through such a difficult time. I literally put myself in there, mentally. I try to really insert myself into a situation mentally where I can actually understand and feel their pain in order to understand them. So I did this with my mother. Now the problem with that is that the trauma that she, would explain to me or tell me that she went through, I was also going through it with her because my grandparents were the ones who primarily raised me. I mean, they were my primary caregivers. Um, so it was, I was hearing her talk about her trauma while also living with the people who she claimed traumatized her. So, and my mom triangulated me from anyone else who I could have had any chance of having a normal relationship with. She did this with everyone in our lives. So not only was she isolating me by giving me her own trauma, but also traumatizing me in her own way. And then also telling me about how all of these other people in our lives, her siblings, my grandparents, my father, my father's family, um, anyone that I could have possibly gotten some extra support from or had any sort of maybe normal relationship with, she she made it impossible for me to do so. So not only was I isolated in this bubble with her, but I wasn't allowed to have a relationship in any kind of normal way with anyone else as well. So, and if I tried, there was, it was a major problem. It was, hell to pay from her. I mean, if she had an issue with someone, which was always the case, um, I was disloyal if I tried to have a normal relationship with like an aunt or an uncle or my cousin or even my dad. Now, my dad's a whole other story. My mom's not the only toxic one in the situation. My dad had his own stuff as well. It was basically a situation where two toxic people found each other and and got married and had children. I mean, but that's not anything groundbreaking. That happens all the time. So I think the point I'm trying to make in this very, very long, long video is that, of course, I love my mom. I think I love someone who doesn't exist, though. You know, this is the thing. My mom is one of the smartest, most talented people I've ever met. She is a font of knowledge. There are so many things about her that I loved about her growing up that there are things that I have, you know, inherited, talents I've inherited from her that I'm very grateful for. And in a different world, in a different circumstance, things would be much different, but they're not, you know, and that's a hard pill to swallow. So when someone asks me, "Do you love your mom?" What else am I supposed to say? Of course I do. Um, but it's complicated, because the person that I love is not actually in existence. It's someone I wish she could have been if things had panned out differently. If she could have gotten a handle on her trauma, if she had maybe had, I don't know, maybe it was just a different time and she wasn't able to have the support that people have now because there's just so much access to information. But woulda, coulda, shoulda. I don't know. I think also it's less about the things that happened when I was growing up because she and I have talked about it extensively. I mean, she knows my grievances. She knows the things that were not okay, and we've talked about it, many, many times. And she's, asked for forgiveness and she's apologized, and I've accepted those apologies, and I have forgiven her. I mean, do they still hurt? Of course they do. Do I wish it were different? Of course I do. Um, it's not it's not about what happened before. The things that I have to put boundaries to are what is still continuing to happen, even after I've explained to her that certain behavior is not okay. That's what the deal is. It's not about, because you at some point you have to let go, not let go, but you have to make peace as much as you can with who your parents were when they were younger, and they had you, and maybe they didn't have access to information to know that what they were doing was not the right thing. um and I have given her grace for that, because she she had her own stuff to deal with. And I get it. um but it's the knowing better now. It's the open communication I've had with her multiple times. And she still continues to exhibit certain behavior that it's not okay, especially when it comes to my children. And that's why we are where we are right now. So I just wanted to put that out there. I made this account because I was really tired of the overproduced, you know, um, hyper produced videos of people talking about, you know, toxic parenting and things like that. And I think I needed to hear from someone with real experience and how they handled it. And, so I decided to do it for myself. Like I said in the beginning, this is a little more of a journal for me. But I'm hoping as well that it will help someone else feel like a real person has gone through this, and this is what it looks like on the other side. Okay. Um, I hope you have a good day. It's Friday. It's the weekend. I have lots more to discuss. I think next time I want to talk about imposter syndrome and why that's such a prevalent thing for adults who grow up in this type of situation. But that's for tomorrow. Okay, guys, have a great day.